Good evening and welcome to Satsang with John David, live here from the Open Sky House. We are at the beginning of the beautiful Sangha weekend, and if you like to join or spend a more intense time with John David, the next possibility would be the Christmas retreat from the 23rd to the 27th of December. And we have one place left for the India retreat, which is going from the 10th to the 31st of January in Tiruvannamalai at the holy mountain Arunachala. And information for both retreats you find on the website johndavidsatsang.international. And if you like to come through by Skype tonight, this is possible. The meeting, the address is Meeting John David. And you're also welcome to visit the Open Sky House as a helper or as a guest. And especially in January, your stay as helper will be for free. Information to this you find on the website openskyhouse.international. Thank you.
Radha. You should keep an eye on her this weekend because strange things are happening. So as she came into the room, she immediately started crying. So why was that? It's not so obvious, perhaps, that she would start to cry. So she's in a very, one of those very nice moments when she feels very, very expanded and very, very empty. So keep your eye on her, and we'll talk to her about that, or maybe even tonight, I don't know. Usually she can't even talk about it, but she's agreed to talk when she can talk. Welcome to Satsang. So we have some Monty Python style jokes. It's the World Cup final, and a man makes his way to his seat right next to the pitch. He sits down, noticing that the seat next to him is empty. He leans over and asks his neighbor if someone will be sitting there. "No," says the neighbor, "the seat is empty." "This is incredible," said the man. "Who in their right mind would have a seat like this for the final and not use it?" The neighbor says, "Well, actually, the seat belongs to me. I was supposed to come with my wife, but she passed away. This is the first World Cup final we haven't been to together since we got married." "Oh, I'm so sorry to hear that. That's terrible. But couldn't you find someone else, a friend, a relative, or even a neighbor to take her seat?" The man shakes his head. "No," he says, "they're all at the funeral." I really like this kind of strange English humor, you know. The next one also. Two campers are walking through the woods when a huge brown bear suddenly appears in the clearing about 50 feet in front of them. The bear sees the campers and begins to head towards them. The first guy drops his backpack, digs out a pair of sneakers, and frantically begins to pull them on. The second guy says, "What are you doing? Sneakers won't help you outrun that bear." "I don't need to outrun the bear," the first guy says. "I just need to outrun you." See, very Monty Python, you know. A woman, and this one also, a woman and a man are involved in a car accident. Both of their cars are totally demolished, but amazingly, neither of them are hurt. After they crawl out of their cars, the woman says, "Wow, just look at our cars. There's nothing left, but fortunately, we're not hurt. This must be a sign from God that we should meet and be really good friends." The man, thinking there might be a bright side to this, replies, "I agree with you completely." The woman continued, "And look at this, there's another miracle. My car is completely demolished, but this bottle of wine didn't break. Surely we must drink this wine and celebrate our good fortune." Then she hands the bottle to the man. The man shakes his head in agreement, opens it, and takes a few very large swigs from the bottle, and then hands it back to the woman. The woman takes the bottle, hands it back to the man. The man asks, "Aren't you having any?" The woman replies, "No, I think I'll just wait for the police." Right, that's amazing, huh? Well, there's one more. Maybe I'll give you an extra. This is not, well, no, I don't want to spoil it. No. Well, that's quite good. So, it's quite a good joke. It's not quite in the same league as the others, but maybe you'll like it. 4 Catholic ladies are having brunch together. The first one tells her friends, "My son is a priest. When he walks into a room, everyone calls him father." The second Catholic woman chips in, "My son is a bishop. Whenever he walks into a room, people say, 'Your Grace.'" The third Catholic woman says smugly, "My son is a cardinal. Whenever he walks into a room, people say, 'Your Eminence.'" The fourth Catholic woman sips her coffee in silence. The first three women give her this subtle, well. She replies, my son is a gorgeous, hard-bodied stripper. When he walks into a room, people say, oh my God. I think there are a lot of people who come onto the internet only for the jokes, actually. Yeah, well, I guess I'm going to talk about a kind of mystery. So this is, if you like, the mystery of love. Unfortunately, love has got a very strange meaning for most people. It's a very kind of boring meaning, actually. And somehow I would say it's taken me many, many years to understand the true meaning of this word love. Because, of course, many people have many kinds of ideas about it. And I can't really put it into words very well. So I'm going to tell you what's been happening in my life. Because for this new book, I've just completed the 11 chapters for the book. And then 2 days ago, we did John David's chapter. So I sat here and kind of told my whole life story from when I was 4 years old, you know. And this mystery that I like to kind of point towards about love is something that I came to realize more and more in my life, I would say, especially in the years since we had this community. There's something very mysterious. And it can even sound a bit weird, you know, a bit spooky, a bit strange, a bit unlikely, something like this, yeah. Because I remember once when I lived in Lucknow with Papaji, you know, I'd already been many years with Osho, and I came to Papaji was a bit like coming to the finishing school because, you know, I'd already gone through, you know, many, many levels of understanding, you could say. And I'd become quieter and quieter. And I felt myself, when I was down in Pune, in the ashram there, I felt myself kind of pretty much cooked. And I thought, well, either I've got it or I must have nearly got it. But I didn't really know how you know when you've got it. And then I went to see Punjaji, and there immediately I discovered that there was something completely fundamental which I didn't understand. I just didn't understand it, and as much as somebody would try to explain it to me, I couldn't understand it. It was just impossible. They kept saying, it's very, very simple, very, very simple, can't you see? I couldn't see it. You know, after many years of spiritual work, I just couldn't see it. And then one day I was sitting, actually it was the time when I asked Papaji, I wrote a third letter to him. So I was sitting in front of him, and then something happened. And in a way, this word love has got to do with that happening. Because basically I was sitting on the floor, he was sitting a little bit above on a platform. I had written him a letter, which was some kind of I put into words the kind of things that I'm trying to put into words now. And he read it out, and then he said, "Did you read this in a book?" You know, because it was quite good actually, but you know, he was in a way playing with me. And I don't remember how it went, and we never found the video, so I don't really know what happened. But anyway, suddenly, this thing that we can call love, which is not anything to do with this other kind of love, something happened. And suddenly, sitting there, I couldn't open my eyes. It was impossible to open my eyes. And when I looked inside, everything was white, completely like whiteout. There was no thoughts. There was a strange kind of absence, you could say, something like a strange absence. The closest I've been to it was when I was teaching English in the Australian television, and they took me into one of these soundproof booths, you know, where they record singers. And inside that booth, it's so quiet, you can hear your mind working almost, you know, it's so quiet, you know, it's incredibly quiet. It's like a positive quietness or something, yeah? So anyway, there was this kind of quietness. It was incredible. There was an incredible absence of everything. There was no thoughts, there was no sound. There was just, everything was just white. And then I couldn't open my eyes, and so it was like, bloody hell, what's going on, you know? So I don't know how long that went on for, of course, but for some period of time it was like that. And then after some time, Papaji asked me some completely stupid question like, which country are you from? You know? Which, you know, actually I was not really capable of answering that question. I don't think I was from any country at that point, you know. But, you know, that kind of question is very clever because it brings you back into the sort of boring level of reality very quickly, you know. So I don't remember if I told him a country. I mean, I can't remember now. But anyway, he must have recognized that, you know, I had gone into some altered state. So he sort of grabbed me. He's quite a big guy, actually. He sort of grabbed me and pulled me up on the stage, and then very nicely put his arm around me like a big bear, you know. He's a very big man, and he put his arm around me, and I'm sitting there. And you know, by then I got my eyes open, I think, but I didn't see anything. I couldn't see through them. They're open, but you know, there was maybe 100 people sitting there, but I couldn't really see them, you know. And anyway, and this went on, you know, I could carry on about it. But anyway, it seems to me when I look back that this was love, you know. This whole thing I've just been describing was love. Probably it was mostly his love, but somehow in that moment I had the capacity to meet that love, maybe meet the love, yeah? And that created something very profound, because then, wherever I was in Lucknow, their basic feeling was this enormous love, which, I mean, how can I love an 85-year-old ex-wrestler, ex-army officer with no hair, with tattoos on his arm? You know, he's not exactly my choice of a lover, so, you know. But there was so much of this thing which I'm talking about, you know, there was so much of this thing that wherever I was, there would be this incredible feeling of connectedness. Not exactly to him, but somehow it was also to him, if that makes sense. And then various strange things started to happen. Like I remember I was sitting in my garden one morning having breakfast, and this message that led to the Blueprints for Awakening project, where I suddenly got a message that was just there, you know. I don't know how it came there, you know. It wasn't an email, it wasn't a fax, it wasn't anybody speaking in my left ear. It was just suddenly this thing was there, this message was there. How does that work, you know? I don't think we have any words to explain that. But suddenly this message was there that I should go and film the Indian masters before they pass away. And then I didn't do anything for a long time, and then it started to happen, and then in the end I produced 2 books. So I actually met about 35 of these masters in India and then in Europe, and then also some American ones. So it's probably about 40 of them altogether. And this is sort of carried on because this new project, Meetings with Remarkable People, some of those interviews that will be in the book I did 10 years ago, when they've been kind of sitting in the archive. And about 2 or 3 years ago, I became aware about Andrew Cohen, because Andrew Cohen was the first of the spiritual teachers or Western teachers that Papaji said, go and share, in about 87, I think it was. And at that time, Papaji thought he was going to die. And so he basically said to Andrew, I want you to go out and share. I want you to continue the work. So this was a very big statement. I want you to continue the work. And he also told Andrew, never doubt, never doubt. So that was somehow how he went out. And he wasn't really taking it so seriously in the beginning. But then later, a lot of strong things happened. And then he did start to share. And then very quickly, he attracted many, many people. He wrote many books. He traveled the world. He set up residential centers in many different countries. He had a very big community near Boston in America, and he was like a famous teacher. Yeah? And in fact, in the early days of all that, he upset Papaji because, well, I won't go into the because, doesn't matter. He upset Papaji, and they had a falling out. Andrew decided, for different reasons, that actually decided he was better than Papaji. So that wasn't such a good thing to decide, really. So now, in about 5 years ago, his whole spiritual teaching has collapsed, with many people going on the internet to say really horrible things about him. How true they all are, I don't know. But anyway, when I started to read all this stuff, I had a kind of intuition that I have to do something about it. In the beginning, it was just like an intuition. It was just like, maybe I have to do something about this. But, you know, the only time I met him, I was trying to get him to agree to an interview in Paris, and he never agreed to it. You know, he acted like an arrogant shit, actually. So I didn't really see how I could get involved in this situation. But it's very, very interesting. So about 2 years ago, he was sitting in a cafe in Tiruvannamalai when I had my retreat, and one of my guys came back and said, hey, you know, Andrew Cohen's in a cafe. So I said, great, go and invite him to meet me. So we met in a cafe. And in this cafe, something really remarkable happened, because in the beginning, I thought, oh, he's really an arrogant shit. I can understand why people wrote all those horrible things about him. And then suddenly, there was just this fucking thing called love there. So there was a moment when he looked at me in a certain way. Maybe I looked at him in a certain way. I don't know really what happened. But suddenly, whatever I might have been thinking about him, everything went. And there was just this enormous thing that you can call love, which, you know, whatever that is, you know, something was there. And actually, maybe I would describe it as like 2 absences meeting, something like that. Maybe that sounds a bit strange, I don't know. But anyway, this enormous thing happened between us. So then I said to him, well, would you like to come to my retreat and talk, you know? I think it wasn't that year, it was a year later that happened. It was this year, yeah. So this year that happened. So it took a year, and then I invited him to come to the retreat. And then he gave this talk about his life, in which he shared some of the things that had gone wrong, and he shared some of the reasons why perhaps it did go wrong. Yeah. So this is one of the main chapters in this new book. And so it's very interesting that this original sort of sense that John David's supposed to do something about this situation with Andrew actually turned out to be true, because we had this meeting, he came to talk, he's going to be in this book, and now he sees me as a sort of bosom friend, actually. And now he wants to invite me to teach together with him in India this year in February at an amazing retreat place which he's been invited to work in. Whether that's going to happen, I don't know, but it's such a change from how we met in Paris, where it was, who are you, little shit, you piss off, But then one more thing happened, you see. So I think it was just before I met Andrew, before he talked in the retreat, I was staying in Mahalipuram, which is a little town where they make a lot of sculptures on the beach, about 2 hours from Tiruvannamalai. If anybody's coming to the retreat and you have a few extra days, it's a very nice place to go and stay. Anyway, so I was staying there, and I'd walked along the beach, and I was wearing my funny shoes, and they were full of sand. So I was sitting on a step, taking out the sand, yeah? And then I just looked up, and there was a taxi, like 1 meter. And I realized in the taxi was Ganga, the woman who Papaji would have considered to be his wife, his spiritual wife anyway. So when he was 65, he met this 23-year-old woman in Rishikesh by the side of the Ganga. And something very strong happened. Papaji was able to do what I'm calling love with her, and so she went into an amazing space. Then he didn't show up anymore. She felt that, she wants to meet him again. She was 23. So she stayed in that place for 8 months, sleeping under a tree until he showed up again. So that's actually pretty amazing, I think. And I would say that's also what I'm trying to describe as love. Yeah? Not I love you kind of love, I think. Yeah? And then they started traveling together, and first there was like a teacher and student, and later they became lovers. And later he was invited to Europe, and while they were in Europe, she had become pregnant, so they made a little girl. And actually they were a family for quite a long time. I think much longer they were a family than most people know about. Anyway, when this book started coming together, it was very clear that I should invite Ganga to come into the book. And sure enough, we finally managed to meet in Amsterdam, and had this actually rather beautiful meeting. I had known her many years, but I'd never actually spoken to her I'd never spoken to her before. And then after it, the daughter, as I said at dinner time, the daughter offered her version of their family life together. And I don't know really what happened, but in the last month, I was directed to put Isaac Shapiro in the book. I was somehow shown that I should go and see Muji. They told me, we're very busy here. It's impossible for you to come. Muji has no time. It's the end of the season. Blah blah blah. But anyway, in the end, they said, okay, you can come. And then when I got there was this story about the contract I told you. But actually, he and I had a very lovely meeting, So this is clearly also meant to be. And then I remembered an old interview I had done with Gangaji in Amsterdam many years ago, 10 years ago maybe. And so that's going in the book too. When I sent her it, she just wrote back fine, very simple. So suddenly we have all these people in the book. And so then we decided, well, we better put Papaji in the book. So now we've got all these historical pictures of Papaji sitting when he must have been around 60 in Europe, meditating under an umbrella with this little girl sitting next to him. Completely cute picture. And so how does all that happen, you see? How did all that happen? And so I've come more and more to see that there is another thing which we don't have really any words for, which we don't have really even any understanding for. And maybe you maybe as I'm talking think, oh, this is all mad, it's nothing. What is that? You see, is it some strange imagination he has, you see? But actually it's not, because since we had this community, I found myself in a position of having to decide so many things. You can't imagine what I have to decide. I have the size of the screw to go in the broken something or other, and, what am I going to talk about or something? I mean, there's so many things I have to decide, yeah? But I don't decide anything. It's really weird. I don't have to decide anything. I used to be somebody who used to think a lot. I was an engineer, trained as an engineer. So I would think, this one, maybe not, all this kind of thinking power. I did have it at one time. Now, in 1 second, I get the answer. Occasionally, I need to sleep overnight, but then it will be there in the morning. And with something big like, should we buy this house in Munster? Should we move the community there? Or do I want to sit on the beach because I'm getting quite old? These kind of decisions, which is actually not so easy to decide, has been taking a few weeks, I would say, maybe nearly a month or two. But the decision is working, not only inside the messages, but the decision is working in reality. Because a month ago we were told, you're one of 4 people who'd like to buy the house, and we're basically going to sell it to whoever gives us the money first. And we couldn't really join that because we didn't have the money, and also we didn't have a decision really. And in this month, all these different people who had all these great ideas what they were going to do have all fallen by the wayside because the council won't give them permission. And suddenly, we went out for dinner with the owner on Saturday last week, a week ago, and she basically said, well, you guys, you're the only one the council's going to accept, which of course has certain strong meanings in terms of what we have to pay for it. So it's really weird to see, in a way that we couldn't really imagine, we're probably going to end up with this house. And it's actually very beautiful. It's an old farmhouse. It's been put together in a design from an architect from about 12 years ago. And when I looked at the plans, it looked like the plans were done for us. I couldn't believe it. It was spooky. It's exactly, well, not exactly probably, but near enough exactly what works for our ideas of a guest house and a restaurant and a seminar business. Perfect. The beautiful nature around, yeah? And so, the other day when I had to give I gave my talk, I realized that as far as I could really see, my whole life has been like that. It's always been like that. That this thing, this strange material, this strange mechanism, this strange message system, whatever it is, has always been working, actually. It's always been working. And now I would say that it works much more. It's now become an express service. It works very quick now. And certainly there's no doubt. I have no doubt about the answers when they come out. Other people might. Often they do probably. But I have no doubt. So this thing that Papaji said to Andrew Cohen, have no doubt. Because you can't doubt this, because this is it. And it is everything or nothing. It's very, very curious. I don't know if what I'm saying really makes sense, but it seems to me that if we want to talk about love, I've just been talking about it. It may not be your idea of love, but it's my idea of love. It's very, very amazing. It's very amazing. So since you were here last time, I don't know, maybe I showed you an early version of the Satori Moment film with Vijaya. You saw an early version maybe, but now it's a kind of polished version with subtitles. It's a very beautiful film, actually, because this was something that happened by itself. You know, it happened in the way I've just been talking about. It was just love. It is just love, this film. So over the weekend, we'll have a look at that film. And the beautiful thing is that this is absolutely you. This is your essence. It's not somebody else. It's not somebody else. You just have to embrace this, it. It's you. And you don't have to do anything, really. Papaji used to scream at us every day, something like, how did it go? You've been hanging around for millions of years. Just give me 1 second, you know? Maybe 2, maybe it was 2 seconds. You know? And of course we all sat there and said, you know, come on, you know, I've been doing this for 15 years already, you know, how can it only be 2 seconds, you know? If somebody likes to come, we can play a bit. Oh, we've got new covers on the chair tonight. I haven't got new covers on my chair. So basically what I'm offering is a kind of inquiry. So if you'd like to come, welcome. Yeah, you see, there are only 9 people watching now. There were 16 when I did the jokes. You see? Okay. So when I met you earlier, you said you've had a terrible month, yeah?
Maybe 3 months, yeah.
3 months? So I guess you must have forgotten something.
Everything.
Everything.
My essence. My essence.
Right.
I'm lost in all that doubting and...
Were you here the night Michael Barnett talked to us? Because I asked him, you remember? I asked him this question because I guess one of the strangest things for me has been the fact that people can even have a sort of Satori moment. They can even come to this incredible space I'm calling love, and then they apparently forget it. If you remember, I asked Michael, and you know, he also agreed that he doesn't really understand how anybody can forget it, because for him it's, you know, the most beautiful thing in his life, of his life. And he was telling a reason, you know, why it happens, you see. And, you know, I'm here, we've got a group who are not living with me, yeah? They're coming and going, yeah? Mostly going, actually. So they go for 3 months and they come for 2 days, you know? So mostly going and a bit coming. And what what Michael was saying was that we come into a certain vibration, yeah? And when the vibration is like tonight here, so we all sat in the beautiful mantra singing, our hearts immediately opened. When she came into the room, she had to cry because our heart was immediately touched, yeah? So we had the mantra singing, And then we had, 10 minutes of amazing silence, yeah? The room was minus, it's kind of minus. It was very beautiful. Everybody must have been touched by this deep silence, yeah? And then what happens to you, Then your natural being starts to come into a sort of synchronicity, yeah? Michael had a special word. Do you remember the word?
This is resonance. Huh?
Resonance. So this is a physics word. It's a sort of resonance. That he gave the example of tuning forks, who resonate together. And in the same way, when we come into this beautiful space in this room, from the mantra singing, from the silence, from maybe my talking, we come into a certain resonance, yeah? And then Monday morning, we go and back to work, or we go and back to fighting with your husband or ex-husband. And then what happens? We go into a completely different resonance, a completely different vibration. Yeah. And then we completely forget. It's like it never happened. It's like maybe a distant memory, something like that. It's not completely forgotten because you're here again. Yeah. So 3 months away and 2 days here, so you can carry on like that, but in the end, that's not going to work very well because, unfortunately, the resonance is mostly with the 3 months and only a bit with the 2 days, yeah? And this is something I've basically been talking about for years, and nobody ever hears me. Because basically the invitation of that is to spend time in this resonance, which is the resonance that actually makes you feel this thing you can call love. Because this is our human birthright, this is who we are. Yeah. We only have 80 years to experience it, maybe, But, why would we choose to live any other way? I mean, I know I'm completely unreasonable. I'm completely unreasonable, because I can't really understand why anybody would not want that, you see.
But it's not a decision that I made to get lost. And in one hand, I have this feeling, and I know, you have to sit down, you have to be quiet, you have to stop thinking, and you know what your essence is. You know it. Yeah, I had this experience, but then my mind, fuck you. I'm here, and I tell you stories. And then my husband came, and all these old strong patterns popped up, and maybe it's a kind of I don't know the right word. I have to learn and to repeat to come in this state that I know I don't get lost anymore. But maybe I had to repeat something. I don't know.
Maybe you have to stop something.
Yes.
You see.
But I'm afraid to come here this time.
I know.
Yeah, and then I come to the door.
You've been invited to come here with your son, who would really like to come here. You're not particularly our most welcome new resident because you're a very emotional woman, and we don't know how it would be to live with you. Yeah. But there's no question that you're invited completely. Because actually we don't have the choice, It's obvious, And it's obvious that when you come here, you go into a completely different resonance to your normal life. And then probably 3 days after you go away from here, you completely forgot about this resonance here, and you're back in your familiar resonance, which is the resonance where you've been maybe for the last 10 years in this unhappy love affair.
Yes,
and then bearing onto that comes all the rules of society, These are either ethical rules, religious rules, moral rules, family rules, court rules maybe in the end.
This is the main problem.
Well, it's not really. They're not going to lock you up, but what are they going to do with you? Nothing, actually.
I really take away yours. And that's for me
Of course they
the
won't.
horrible
They
thought.
can't do that. They can't do that.
They can. That's the problem. They will do it. But this is not the point, because in the months or like in
But
the
it
year,
is exactly the point. It seems to be exactly the point that you have the idea they can take away jobs. There's an enormous fear, naturally.
Yeah.
And then basically you're completely frozen.
Kannst du übersetzen? Aber in dem Jahr davor war ich ja eigentlich, auch uneigenlich, da war ich gut damit. Und das, ja.
She's saying in the year before she has been good with the situation.
Sorry, what?
The year before this year she has been very good with the situation.
Ja, ich habe gelernt, das irgendwie nicht mehr so persönlich zu nehmen, und es hat mich nicht mehr so geängstigt, aber ich habe auch nicht das Gefühl gehabt, was tun zu können oder was tun zu wollen. Oder, ja.
In that year, she had learned to be less afraid.
Ja.
Was war das andere, das erste?
Ja, dass ich habe diesen Push nicht gehabt, was tun zu müssen in irgendeiner Richtung.
She didn't feel an urge to do something about it. She was more
Ich konnte es einfach lassen, wie es war. Ja.
able to let things be as they were.
Und ich konnte mich auch immer wieder zurückholen, und wenn ich gesessen habe, war ich mit mir und still und habe auch gemerkt, worum es geht.
She was always able to pull herself out of the situation and to sit with herself and to see what was going on.
Well, it sounds very nice, but actually it's not true, of course.
Ja, die letzten Monate nicht.
And
Temporarily true, maybe, but it wasn't really true.
Das sind immer zwei Hälften, die
I
nicht.
mean, you created a reasonable compromise, you could say. Yeah? Okay, so let's do something different, yeah? Let's just have a look together, okay? So we'll start off just to tune in together with our eyes closed. Then you keep your eyes closed for some time, and we'll see what happens, yeah? How okay? So keep your eyes closed and look inside and see what is happening. Maybe thoughts, maybe there's some feelings, Maybe there's a body sensation. Maybe it's simply quiet. So have a look and then tell me what is the strongest thing.
Afraid of let go.
Fear to let go. Okay, so stay with this fear. Don't try to change anything, just completely accept the fear. And what's happening now?
There's so much space.
Space. Okay, so stay with this space. And what's happening now?
I know myself, but I'm full of fears to be with it, to be like that, to expand and be that space, and be this love. Too much.
what's happening now?
I want to jump, but something grabbed me and hold me back.
And what happens now?
No doubt. So stupid.
So what is happening now?
I'm so stupid.
What?
I'm so stupid.
Well, you're not more stupid than all the rest of these guys sitting here.
I know
You're
it.
only relatively stupid, you know. You're definitely much more clever than most of the people out there. But you're relatively a little bit stupid, yeah. But now it's so clear.
It
Yeah?
is so clear.
And by Tuesday you'll forget again, probably.
This is always inside myself. That's me. I'm such
Yeah, you can't.
a huge space.
You can never shake it out. You know, you can never lose it. It's you. You know? It's the most essential part of you.
What's the part that's searching for love in the outside and please like me and I'm a good girl, please tell me.
Right.
Bullshit idea.
Yeah, of course. And I don't know, you know, but I can't believe that it could be true that they can take your son, you know. So I don't think this is going to happen because you already told me that the judge asked your son and he said, I would like to go to Open Sky House.
Yeah.
You know? So I don't think they're going to put you in prison and give him to daddy. I mean, why would they do that? He doesn't like daddy.
Because there's a mindy world.
Because what?
A mindy world.
It's a mindy world, but even in a mindy world, I don't know if it behaves like that, you know. And this is where maybe you need to trust, because the way it is now, it's destroying you. You're getting destroyed by this situation. So, Okay?
Okay.
Okay. Somebody else like to come? This is the Vishnu show. Every 3 months. How many years has this show been running? 7 or 8 years?
In 2011.
11. Oh, only 7 years, 8 years. 8 years. Anyway, you were lost for the first few years, but since some time you've been found, yeah? But you forget, or not. You don't forget. So shall we do some investigation together? You close your eyes, I'll close mine. So what's happening inside now?
There's energetic space.
So bring your attention to this energetic space. Embrace it. And what's happening now?
There's something resisting.
Something is resisting. And now, what happens now?
There's enormous opening, and then comes contraction, and then again comes enormous opening.
And what's happening now?
I'm back again here in this room, not so much in this space.
So it's a bit louder.
I'm much more again in this room, but there's still the space. Some thoughts.
Okay, so maybe when you feel comfortable, you can open your eyes. Okay. So I'm going to invite our friend Radha, the camera lady. Come on, can you talk, you think? Yeah? Okay. We take the chance while she can talk. So today's, when did you Was it on Friday? Anyway, so as you know, Radha has quite a history of coming and going. And I would say she's had 2 very big Satoris, and in the last period she'd gone, in the summer she spent 3 months in a kind of agony of the pain of discovering how horrible and loveless her childhood had been. Something like that? Hello? Keep your eyes open, please. Was it something like that?
Mm-hmm.
And whenever you asked her, hey, Radha, how are you doing? Oh, it's really awful. And blah, blah, blah.
I immediately started to cry.
So it was a very tough summer. It was a very tough summer. And it was a little bit hard because last year in the summer she had the second of these big Satori moments. So it was a big contrast, you know. Anyway, so we thought she was never going to get out of this because it went on for 3 or 4 months. Misery on misery on misery on misery. And when did it change? It was very suddenly. Yeah? I know. So it was before...
It was the last outer Sangha weekend.
Yeah, no, it was the inner Sangha weekend, wasn't it?
Before there was the outer Sangha weekend, then
It happened that weekend?
it started to shift.
Okay. So the last weekend you guys were here, it started to shift for her. But actually, the next weekend, we had an inner Sangha. And on the Friday night, she was still moaning, basically. But suddenly on the Friday night, she completely lost every banana she ever found, you know. And she was just, it was just amazingly powerful again. Yeah? Was that right? You want to carry on the story now? So that was, 2 months ago, I think.
Mm-hmm.
About 2 months ago. And now it's been going on. Not all the time, but on Friday, something happened in the meeting. Yeah?
Mm-hmm.
And tonight, when she walked into this very lovely energy of the mantra singing, again, something happened. And now you're going to tell us about it. Yeah?
What's it? I mean...
And I'm very happy that our friend Arun finally arrived because he's very worried that you're a follower. You know, he's worried that nice, innocent young ladies like you come to this community and become a follower, you know, and that John David is requiring everybody to follow him, you know. I don't know where I'm going, so you have to be careful when you start trying to follow me, you know. But anyway, so for Arun's benefit in particular, can you address, do you feel yourself a follower? We're going to have a lot of fun with Arun this weekend. What?
Try me, I say.
Try you?
Yeah.
Yeah, we will. We will. Don't worry. We've already got a jury set up, everything, you know.
It's an invitation.
Yeah. And we have a cellar ready for you.
Very good.
So when you heard that he was concerned that he might have to become a follower, what did you feel about that, actually? He's over 21, so, you know.
I mean, I find it a funny word.
Funny word.
Mm-hmm. I don't know what to say. I mean, I'm sitting here a bit blank.
You're a bit blank, really.
I mean, you said a good word. Yeah, it's not about following; it's about finding. Yeah,
Finding,
even when it's nothing to find.
right. This is a kind of paradox.
Yeah. Maybe it's more like remembering.
Remembering, right. I don't know whether everybody knows that since our last meeting, Michael Barnett passed away. And when I heard that he was ill, I went to visit him with Indira. We had maybe an hour having a cup of tea with him. And one of the other things he said that night, yeah, about, what did he say? Now I can't think. He said lots of good things. What did he say? Touched me something. What was the word you just said?
Remembering.
Yeah. It doesn't ring any bells, unfortunately.
Not always functioning as
All
remembering.
my bells are kind of not working at the moment. Yeah, well, I mean, it's obvious why people might think we're members of a mindless cult, you know, because all we can do is laugh like idiots, you know.
Yeah, after all this brainwash, yeah, you got blank. Yeah.
All right. We'll have to introduce Arun to our brainwashing laboratory, I think. Yeah. Well, I don't remember what Michael said, but you'll have to read the book. It's in the book. It's in the book. Okay, I can see you're not going to... Okay, we'll leave you there. No. Anyway, she looks cute tonight, don't you think? Okay, so thank you. Thank you.